North for stolen packages and punitive damages.
Court come to order.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 1181, Ortega versus North.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Mr. Ortega, you and Miss North are neighbors.
Correct.
You live on the same floor.
Correct.
How long have you been living in your apartment?
Since January of 2021.
Where did you live prior to that?
I lived in a neighborhood in West Hollywood with a roommate, not too far off.
For how long?
Maybe a couple months, not a whole lot.
Where were you living before that?
I didn't really have an address.
What does that mean?
I didn't have a home.
So you were homeless?
Yeah,
So you were homeless for a long period of time.
for 2 years.
Then you moved in, you had a roommate for a couple of months. And then you moved in January 2021 to an apartment.
Correct.
Who found you the apartment? Can you look at me? Look
Yes,
in my
ma'am.
direction.
It's just something that happened in court, that's all. I can't really talk about that part.
Well, something's become important. Now, who was paying the rent in your apartment?
I was.
From what source of employment?
I got a settlement.
Okay, how long have you been living in your apartment?
17 years.
In the 17 years that you've been living in the apartment complex, have you ever been arrested?
No,
How old are you?
I'm 46.
How many times have you been arrested in your whole life?
In my whole life, one time when I was in college.
For what?
I tried to help break up a fight that my friend was in.
Not since college.
Correct.
Now, Mr. Ortega, it is your claim that the defendant, who's been on your floor for 17 years, is a thief.
Correct.
And you claim two different things. You only have proof of one alleged theft, and that was, I believe, in May.
May 20th of 2021.
Okay, so May of 2021, you're going to show me proof that Miss North stole something from you.
Yeah, I have it right here.
I'd like to see it. What do I do here? Okay, now, clearly that's from your ring thing,
Yes.
and I want to show this, Kevin, to the defendant, because I don't know what it shows.
Okay, so that was me leaving my apartment with a bag or a package or something. I didn't realize I ordered so much stuff, but because I'm defending myself, I've found that I've ordered over 100 packages on Amazon and Bloomingdale's. I have to return those things if they don't work out.
No, what I'm asking you is, you say that that's your bag, the
Yeah.
white bag.
I'm walking out of my apartment with my own bag.
Okay, so your doors are close, very close together.
I have a photo to show you how close they are. I have to walk by his door.
Before we get to that, all right, let me have that back. Make sure we're looking at the same.
Your Honor, I also have pictures, if you needed, of her taking that stuff enlarged.
I did not take anything from him, Your Honor.
Okay, listen to me, Mr. Ortega. I want you to tell me exactly what it was that you alleged that she took from your apartment that was in the white bag.
For that date?
No, no, no. Look at me.
Yes, ma'am.
What was it in the bag that you allege she took from the front of your apartment?
An order that I had from Macy's. I bought some stuff from Macy's, jewelry mostly.
Just a second.
Just the date and everything that shows that it was delivered. And it was a lot of jewelry, and I never got that back. I even made a complaint with Macy's, and they were kind enough to send some of it back, which was nice, but not all of it.
What do you mean? You made a complaint
I filed a complaint with Macy's.
that you didn't receive your merchandise,
Yes, that's correct.
and Macy's responded.
Yes, they responded with me having to file a police report, which I
And did you do that?
I did.
No one
I'd
ever
like to see
contacted
it.
me about a police report.
I'd like to see the police report.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, I have video evidence. Okay.
That's evidence of me submitting the
No, no,
police
no, no,
remote.
no, 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 no. You filed this report on March 25th.
That's correct, ma'am.
March, April, May. You just told me that this alleged theft happened May 20th, 2021.
That's correct.
So how do you show me a police report that you filed in March?
Your Honor, I did that because a lot of my packages went missing. A few of them.
I only want to see what you filed after May 20th.
I've called the police and no one will show up because it's not a life
All
or
right,
threat
forget
emergency.
it. We're done with May 20th.
How can
Now,
that be, ma'am?
We're done with May 20th.
But then
You
I
have no
won't get
proof.
justice, and I do
We're
have
done.
proof. There's video footage in that.
I saw the video.
And then
I asked you.
there's my Macy's confirmation that it got delivered on that day, ma'am.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And you filed a complaint to Macy's that you
Yes.
never received it, and they resent it.
Yes, they
Yeah,
present it.
that's
but
a
guess
yes.
What? She took
That-
other packages
that's
as well.
Well, I don't know that.
Honor,
Show
I
me.
did.
Yeah, yes.
Here's your iPad. Show me she took other packages as well.
Sure.
I didn't take any of his.
She just.
Okay.
And I also have
No.
complaints
Show,
about
no.
doing this to
Show
my
me.
landlord. Yes, ma'am.
Show me.
That's her. And taking
Just don't
more
tell
stuff
me.
in trash bags.
Don't tell me.
She does
Take
that.
my garbage out, Your Honor.
Yeah, it's not just that.
Okay.
There's boxes in that.
Okay.
And there's also a box there.
Mr. Ortega, the other part of your complaint is that your apartment was burglarized.
Was
And it was burglarized on what date?
October 27th, 2021. And she lives right next to me, and she wouldn't even call the police.
I didn't have any
Just a
knowledge
second.
of this.
You were there talking with him.
Just a second.
Okay, it's just ridiculous. I'm sorry. This is silly. I'm a busy lady and it's wasting my time.
October 27th, 2020, your apartment was burglarized.
That's correct.
And you believe that the defendant was somehow responsible.
Yeah.
Just look at me. You
do.
believe that the defendant was somehow responsible.
I do.
What your belief is irrelevant in a court unless you have proof.
I'll show you
that
proof, ma'am.
That the defendant was somehow responsible for the burglary. I'm assuming, for the sake of this question, that your apartment was burglarized.
It was.
Show me the police report.
That's all I got. Because I had called the police when that happened because she wouldn't do it, knowing that
Why-
she's there.
why was I
Just a
supposed to- I
second.
She's my
didn't-
neighbor. She's so close by. She could have
Oh
done
my
that at
God,
least.
you're ridiculous.
And later today,
It's a word called condonation. It means that if something happens and you had a big fight and then you get together and you snuzzle together and you sort of make up, we don't go back into history. That's not what courts are for.
Gildardo Ortega claims his neighbor, Rachel North, stole multiple packages from his doorstep.
Now, I'm assuming, for the sake of this question, that your apartment was burglarized.
It was.
Good. I'd like to see the police report first. Kevin, you can return this to him. It has to do with March, before the last theft.
Yes, ma'am.
Just show me the police report with regard to 10/27/20. Well, this says that somebody has been arrested for the burglary of your apartment, I assume for the burglary of your apartment.
Yes.
And that if the defendant is convicted, you may be entitled to restitution. That's not a police report. Let's understand that. That's just a notice that somebody has been arrested. Mr. Ortega, you had to have filed a police report.
I did.
Show me the police report.
That's all I got. Because I had called the police when that happened because she wouldn't do it, knowing that
Why-
she's there.
why was I
Just a
supposed to-
second.
I
She's
didn't-
my neighbor. She's so close by. She could have
Oh
done
my
that at
God,
least.
you're ridiculous.
Just
No,
a second.
It's not.
Is
It's
what-
a nice thing to
is
do with
what-
a neighbor.
You're a scammer.
Mr. Ortega,
Right.
is what you're suggesting, because Miss North is your neighbor, it was her responsibility
It's
to
not.
call, just a second, to call the police. Is that what makes you think she was involved in this burglary?
No, ma'am, but she also didn't need to be involved in our other neighbor. He obviously goes to her. She's walking by as well. And that's the person.
Can I see?
No. Yes, ma'am.
Can I see what you're talking about?
There you go.
It's a video. Yep, push.
So that's one of our neighbors.
There's an elderly person there in gray hair. That's
Yes.
not her. Your case is dismissed, Mr. Ortega. You have
No,
no
ma'am,
case
this
against
isn't
Miss
fair.
North.
No.
You do it again. You do it again, she's going to sue you for defamation. Do you
That's not
understand?
correct. That's not right,
Do you
because
understand? I don't care what you think is right or not.
I lost my
You
justice
have-
then.
you need proof.
She doesn't like me. She never did
I
like
don't
me
even
from
know
I moved there
him.
because
I
I was
don't even
homeless.
know-
Maybe that's why. And I
Wait,
lived in
I
an
didn't know he
upscale
was
neighborhood.
homeless, Your Honor.
Court is
You're a
adjourned.
scammer. I'm thrilled. I mean, he's ridiculous. He's a scammer, and she saw right through it.
I don't think it's fair.
I've had packages stolen. Everybody's had packages stolen.
I don't even want to live there because it's so horrible to live there.
I'm not a criminal. I'm not a thief.
She's going to be stuck with me, I guess, for a while.
That plaintiff seemed a little off to me in his explanations and even in the suggestive video footage. Something just felt off.
But there was certainly no proof she was involved in any
Yeah.
burglary or theft of packages of his.
And it's not a crime to walk in and out of your own apartment.
But he's got it fixed in his mind, and that's frightening to live next to that.
Yeah.
Case number 1173, Bourbon versus Maine. Please step forward.
Julia Bourbon is suing her ex-boyfriend, Jacob Maine, for a broken window, broken ignition key, towing fees, and a refund of rent.
How long have you known Mr. Maine?
I met him in 2019.
When did you start to date?
Oh gosh, it had to have been August of 2019.
In August of 2019, who were you living with?
My mother.
And the dates actually become important because this sounded like a love affair that was volatile. But there was a lot of fighting and forgiving. And I have to see whether the fighting part is something that courts get involved with when I have a feeling in between a lot of the fighting was a lot of forgiving. Where were you living, Mr. Maine, in August of 2019?
I was living in Paso Robles with my now ex-wife shortly after I moved into my father's.
Okay. So from the house that you shared with your now ex-wife, you moved in with your father?
Yeah, shortly afterwards, yeah.
And when did you move in with your father?
Probably later in August.
Did meeting the plaintiff have anything to do with precipitating your divorce?
Probably.
Okay, that's fair. Did there come a time in August or sometime thereafter when you moved into Miss Bourbon's mother's house?
Right.
When was that?
October, November?
Did you pay any rent?
No, ma'am.
And you shared her room?
Yes, ma'am.
You stayed there from when to when?
November to maybe June, July, something like that.
A long time.
Yeah.
Did you have any problems when you were living in her mother's house?
No, not until the very last week or so.
Why don't you tell me what happened the very last week or so in June? That's part of the complaint.
Me and Julie were arguing, and I think her mother kind of caught wind of that and didn't really like that, and so she kicked us out, I guess you could say.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When Miss Bourbon's mother asked you to leave, you moved in with your father.
Yes.
And you moved in with him, with his father.
For a short time, yes, ma'am.
That was in June of 2021.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So then let's deal with this incident quickly that happened in April, which is before June, while you were living at your mother's house. Don't look at your document, look here. If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. Not that I'm particularly interested in what happened in April, because then we had a subsequent May and June and July. Why don't you tell me what happened quickly?
Me and Jacob were arguing, and I locked the doors, and we went outside because I didn't want to argue inside. So I realized I had locked myself out without the key. So I went and I climbed through my bedroom window to get access to the house. And as I was closing the window, he slammed it back open and it shattered.
Had the situation resolved?
No, it hadn't.
Well, what were you going inside for?
To unlock the door, the front door, to get back in.
To let you both back in?
Right.
So the situation had somehow resolved because you went outside so that your mother wouldn't hear you yelling.
Yes.
Am I getting this right? You know, you keep saying yes, but am I getting this right?
Yes.
I'm trying to create a visual for myself. Now, how did the window break, sir?
She slammed it closed, and I put my hand out to kind of brace for it, and it really just bounced off my hand and went to the other side of the windowsill and broke on the other side of the windowsill.
Is that what was happening?
No, I had almost closed it, and he grabbed it and he slammed it back open. I was gonna go unlock the front door to let him in.
Now, that happened on April 4th. When you were at your mother's house, did you share the same room?
Yes, we did.
Did you share the same room from April 4th, 2021 until June 22nd, 2021?
No, we didn't. He went back to his dad's house.
You discovered that he was cheating on you, and you were angry.
Yes.
So you went into his house.
And I cut up some of the clothes that I had bought.
Julia Bourbon claims her ex-boyfriend, Jacob Maine, owes for a broken window, broken ignition key, and a refund of rent.
Okay, so after the April 4th incident, he left.
Correct.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Between April 4th and June 22nd, how many nights did you spend at his father's house?
Probably 5 or 6.
So I actually don't care what happened with the window. Neither do courts. It's a word called condonation. It means that if something happens and you had a big fight, and then you get together and you snuzzle together and you sort of make up, we don't go back into history. That's not what courts are for. June 22nd, Jacob informed me that his dad was moving, and did you want to move into the house?
Yes, he offered.
And it sounded like a reasonable idea to you. You were still in like with each other,
Yes, Your Honor.
still hoping to make it work. So according to what I read, your father was supposed to move out, you were supposed to move in and split the rent with him.
Correct.
And you gave him $350 in rent.
310.
Did you ever move into his father's house with him?
No, I did not.
Okay. You said there was an incident in July, on the 26th of July. Do you want to tell me what that incident was?
Sure. We were in Lemoore, California, and we were arguing. And
Where?
In my car. I had pulled over into a Best Buy parking lot because I needed to get away from him just to cool down. And when I got out, I saw him reach for my ignition, and then I got back in the car and noticed that my ignition key was broken. He didn't admit to it, but I mean, it was broken. So it cost me $414 to replace from the Mercedes dealership in Fresno. And also, since my car wasn't in a legal parking stall, it was towed.
So you pulled into a parking lot, parked in an illegal spot, key was broken out of the ignition, and the car was towed, and you want him responsible for that?
Yes, because
Okay.
I wasn't able to move my car because my ignition key was broken.
Was July 26th the last time you saw each other?
No,
When was the last time you saw each other?
about a month afterwards
Where was that?
at his dad's house.
So you went there.
Yes, I did.
What time did you go over there?
I would say about 6 p.m.
Tell me about that visit.
He had promised to pay me for all of the things that he owed me for. And so I went to his house because I didn't have his number.
Okay. What happened, sir, when the plaintiff came to your house?
I mean, what happened with that was she pulled into the parking lot and then she got out of the car. So I reached over to turn the ignition off, and it's not like a key, it's like a chip that you put into the thing, and it broke off. So I said I would pay, for that. It was my fault. But before that, she broke into my house and then destroyed all my clothes.
Now, you've just acknowledged to me that you did break off whatever key was. Whitney, did he say it was my fault? I thought he said it was my fault, which is a good thing.
Unintentionally, but yes.
Unintentionally, but it was your fault.
Right.
Yeah, he said I would pay for that. It was my fault.
$414. Okay. What happened a month later? You went to his house at 6 o'clock and?
I waited for about 20 minutes and I saw him walking up and I said, "Hey, do you have any money that you can pay me for the things that you broke?" And he said, No, I'm not going to pay you for any of that. And so I said, well, that's not right. And then I left.
Did you go to his house and cut up some of his clothes?
No,
All of my clothes.
no, I did not.
Did you ever discuss with him the fact that his clothes were destroyed?
I did, but it was in December.
Just a second. The answer is you did.
Yes.
When did you discuss with him that his clothes were destroyed?
I don't agree that I cut up all of his clothes, but the incident that he's referencing happened in January 2021.
Tell me what happened.
I discovered that he was cheating on me, and so I went into his house. I didn't break in.
You discovered that he was cheating on you, and you were angry.
Yes.
So you went into his house.
And I cut up some of the clothes that I had bought.
Tell me what you cut up.
An Alabama shirt that I had bought him, a pair of pants that I paid for, and some underwear. That's it.
What was the discussion that you had with him with regard to replacing the value of these items?
There wasn't any discussion about it.
Well, you said there was some sort of discussion that you had about the clothes.
Yeah, well, he just accused me of cutting up all of his clothes, but we didn't agree. We didn't talk about me replacing it.
What did she cut up?
Everything.
Where did she leave it?
Right there in the middle of the floor.
On what date?
2 weeks after, maybe 2.5 weeks after she paid the $310, and then decided not to move in.
Well, that hissy fit's going to cost $310 because that's part of your lawsuit. You can't go into his house and cut up his clothes. That's a no-no. And you, sir, have already acknowledged that you owe her for the broken key. It was an accident, but your fault.
Indeed.
And I've already decided that there was condonation with regard to the window incident, which after the window incident, which I don't really understand why you would want to go out of the house to have an angry discussion when you could do it privately inside the house because your mother wasn't there. So I'm not following that whole thing. But afterwards, you made mufki pufki for a couple of months, so I don't care about the window. But the $414 you acknowledged that you owed her, the $350 you did pay for rent, you never moved in, you're still living there with your father, you can't cut up his clothes, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $414. We're finished. Goodbye. Good luck. Have a happy life.
Court is adjourned.
She stole my phone and really had nothing on it.
His phone. I saw his phone.
And she kept arguing.
He denied it.
Could have settled it out of court, I guess.
You know, the concept of condonation was a term that was originally, I think, taught to us in the context of being married.
I think there might be some hesitation about teaching this idea in law school, just because if courts don't get involved in those minor issues while they were still cohabitating, I think they can circumvent wrongdoing and not take accountability if they say, well, we slept in the same bed after that incident happened, so courts won't even look at that. You don't want to discount the negative interactions that people have living together or not, but we can't get involved in every squabble.
It's sort of interesting because in one respect, you are saying wrongdoing is being rewarded.
As long as you're sleeping in the same room.
As long as you're sleeping in the same room. But if it were an important enough incident,
yes,
there is some abusive behavior that is important. When you have that and you break the relationship and you pursue a remedy, I think that remedy has to be taken seriously. Mm-hmm. Common sense, that's what the law's supposed to be.
It's supposed to.
Want justice? Go to
All rise. Hello, Judge. We have case
Have a seat, please.
1015 Shaw versus Gordon.
Thank you. Ms. Shaw, you want to tell me how you met the defendant?
So I was on the city bus with my mother. We were headed to Fremont Street in Las Vegas, and I made a statement that Mr. Gordon was handsome, and my mom went and gave him my phone number.
And when was that?
This was in 2018.
Exactly when in 2018?
I want to say September.
What kind of work were you doing at the time?
I'm a disabled single parent.
So you received disability?
Correct.
And that's your only source of income?
Correct.
And how long have you been receiving disability?
Since March of 2015.
Who do you live with?
I live with my two children.
How old are they?
8 and 10 now.
Did they get any form of disability
Yes,
for you?
my daughter gets SSI now.
Your daughter gets SSI.
Mm-hmm. And my son is pending.
How much does your daughter receive from SSI?
$714.
Okay. Now, it was in September of 2018 that you met the defendant.
Correct.
You were driving a city bus?
Yes, ma'am.
How long had you been driving a city bus?
2 years and 6 months, or 7 months.
And what do you do now?
I work for UPS as a driver and many other, warehouse, anything they need me to do.
That's the answer. Yeah. Now you work for UPS.
Yes.
How much after your mother gave him your number on this city bus did he call you?
Pretty much 2 days later.
And when did you see him?
The same day.
Did you start dating?
I don't know what you want to call it.
That's accurate. Yeah.
Did you start seeing each other more frequently than just this one time you went out?
Yes.
Yes. How much after you started to see each other did you tell him or ask him if he would co-sign for a car loan for you?
I didn't ask.
You didn't?
No. He actually asked me if I wanted him to co-sign. I had
Ms. Shaw,
Ms.
Shaw, you have to understand that we have to have a consistent story. That usually doesn't come up in conversation when you're dating someone, when you're intimate with them. Hey, how about I co-sign a car loan for you is something that usually doesn't come up in conversation unless you're talking about, I need a car.
We were talking about it. What happened was we were talking about my vehicle, which motor had blew.
Just a second. You must have told him you needed a vehicle.
Right, but I didn't ask him to co-sign. He offered to co-sign.
Ms. Shaw, I have to tell you something. You're starting off on the wrong foot with me because if you say, I need a new car, I'm going to go out and get a new car, a normal reaction isn't, I'll co-sign it for you. You say, great, I'll go and take a look at one with you. If you want me to go shopping with you, I'll go shopping with you together. But unless you say, I can't get a loan in my own name, nobody just says, how about I co-sign a loan for you.
Well, he knew in Vegas I couldn't get a loan of money.
Just a second. How did he know?
Because I wasn't a Vegas resident. And
Just a second. You mean this guy knows the law in Las Vegas that if you're not a Vegas resident, you can't get a car in your name? I have to tell you something. I'm a judge. I've been a judge for almost 40 years. I didn't know that you had to be a resident of a state where you buy a car. I mean, I live in lots of places, and I'm a Florida resident, and I bought cars in New York and Connecticut and New Jersey. Do you understand? It doesn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, it's not true. And if you want to start off on a reasonable foot with me, so far you're not doing a good job of it. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Is not an answer. Now, how much after you met the defendant did you tell him that you couldn't get a car loan in your own name because you weren't a Vegas resident?
We immediately talked about it.
You immediately talked about it?
Yes.
That's fascinating. So, just a second. That's great. It's great for your team. Don't shake your head. Sometimes somebody just takes that shovel and keeps digging. So immediately upon meeting this stranger who you got on a bus with your mother, and you said, gee, he looks handsome, give him my number. Immediately after you met, you said, motor blew on my car. I need you to co-sign for a loan. Okay, now, we're going to move forward because it's lunchtime, and so I'm going to speed this up a little bit. He said he would sign a car loan for you if you gave him $1,000.
Correct.
Okay, so that would sound to me that he really didn't trust you, which that was the first smart thing you did.
Yes, ma'am.
In any event, he signed for the car with you. Where do you live, in Los Angeles?
I live in Texas.
You live in Texas. Are you still driving this? What kind of car was it that you bought?
2016 Dodge Caravan.
You still driving it?
They're taking it September 15th. I filed bankruptcy.
So, is what you're telling me you haven't been paying for the car?
I've been paying for it. I'm up to date, except for I owe 3 months right now. I paid all the way up to 3 months.
Being up to date is not 3 months. If you haven't made your car payment in 3 months, you're not up to date.
And ma'am, she was... Yeah.
Speak not.
All right, I'll shut up.
So you're not up to date in your car payment. You're still driving around in the car. You filed for bankruptcy. What do you think that means? Do you think that means that they're going to come after his check from UPS for the car? Because he's the co-signer on the car.
Actually, I'm the co-signer. He's the main buyer.
Is the car in your name?
Yes, ma'am.
But you're a real idiot.
Yeah.
Just a second. They're still going to come after him.
Correct.
And how much is left on the loan?
$14,000, I believe.
$14,000 is left on the loan. So what she has done by filing for bankruptcy is put you in a position where you're going to pay this $14,000 that's left on the car.
And see, this was...
If you have a job,
yes,
and whatever lending institution it is going to know that as long as you work, they're going to take 10% out of your salary or whatever they can take. Did you know that?
No, ma'am.
Well, now you know it.
I do.
Okay. Next time
I will definitely.
You'll think harder. All right, so this is what the case is about. Now that I've gotten to know the players in the case, because I'm not finished with you, because I'm not sure that the method that you used to try to collect your $1,000, which, by the way, you never paid him, correct?
I couldn't pay him.
I don't care. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. My question was, you never paid him. No. The answer is no. You never paid him. And what he came to collect, according to you, he came to collect his $1,000 because he had a bad feeling that he wasn't going to get this $1,000 from you. He waved a gun at you, right?
Yes.
Lies.
And he chased you
Correct.
with your children, right?
Yes.
And according to you, he trespassed in the hotel where you were staying, although you didn't see it. He came back to the hotel where you were staying when you weren't home and stole all your property.
Yes.
And it is your claim that all your property was worth $10,000, because that's what your claim is.
Correct, but a lot of it was because of the car that I had forfeited to get this car. I could have gotten the motor in that car fixed, but he offered to co-sign on this vehicle. You want to show me something that's different? Is there anything different that he said that's in the court? Attempted burglary and larceny.
It's attempted burglary.
What I'm saying.
Don't answer her.
And later today,
The check looked legitimate to you?
Yes.
You find out that the check is all a scam. And I assume you don't have the letter that came along with the check.
I have the letter, Your Honor, that came with the check.
Oh,
I obtained it from her to make sure it didn't get lost.
Jessica Shaw claims her ex-boyfriend, Daryl Gordon, did not return her property or pay for DMV fees. Daryl is countersuing for breach of contract.
Listen to me, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
You pled guilty to trespass.
Yes, that was part of the plea deal.
And when you pled guilty to trespassing, I assume it was in her motel.
Yes.
And when you pled guilty to trespass, there was a judge like me.
Is it just quick question? Is trespassing?
When you're
It's attempted burglary. It gets knocked down to a trespass after a year. A misdemeanor.
Oh, so you pled guilty to attempted
Yes, ma'am.
burglary.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, so you were charged with burglary.
Attempted, yes.
No, you were
wait,
charged
you're
with
the judge,
burglary.
so yes. Yes, you know
You
better
were
than me.
charged with burglary.
Yes.
You pled down to attempted burglary.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. That's.
Is there, you want to show me something that's different?
No, this is a court document.
Just a second. Is there anything different that he said that's
This
in
is
the court?
attempted burglary and larceny.
It's attempted burglary.
What I'm saying.
Don't answer her. When you pled guilty to attempted burglary, you appeared before a judge like me.
Correct.
And the judge, what they call, allocuted you. They told you you had a right to have a trial. Stop playing with your papers. They told you you had a right to have a trial.
Yes, ma'am.
And the judge told you that you had a right at that trial to call witnesses, cross-examine these witnesses, and by making this plea of attempted burglary, it was as if you went to trial, and you're pleading guilty because you are guilty. That's what the judge has to say.
Right.
And you said, yes, I did whatever I did. I trespassed on her property.
Yes.
And they adjourned the case, I assume, for a probation report.
Yes.
And when they adjourned the case for a probation report, Mr. Gordon, did it come back that you had prior arrests?
No.
This was the only time
I've never been in trouble until I met her.
So the judge said you've never been in trouble before, and this incident was not between strangers. So I'm going to give you a break. If you keep your nose clean, don't get into any trouble for, I don't know, how many years? 2 years?
Yes.
2 years. That after your probation is over, the judge said that the courts would knock the case down to a misdemeanor and dismiss it.
Yes.
And when the judge finally rendered the judge's decision on your sentence, did the judge make an order for restitution?
Yes, she did.
And in what amount did the judge fix for restitution?
It's $221.90 exact in restitution. I've already been paid.
And what was that for?
She wanted what she'd been asking for, and the judge said, provide the receipts of what you had in that budget suites. So that's what she could. I don't even think you showed up. But,
just a second.
Sorry.
Just a second. But you paid the restitution.
I paid
Would
the
you show me, please, Kevin,
There you go, sir.
restitution?
You have it inside.
Yeah.
Say nothing.
Yeah.
I'm looking.
Yeah.
Mr. Gordon, in addition to the $221, by the way, you received that from the court?
Yes, ma'am.
You retained a lawyer?
Yes.
Just my own curiosity, how much did you pay the lawyer?
$10,000, ma'am.
Where'd you get the money from?
My mom had to actually take money out of her 401k. She took $10K out.
And how much later did the court send you the $221?
Last month, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And when the court ordered $221, that was because you couldn't provide receipts for any more.
No, ma'am. The reason they didn't do that is because I didn't show up at the court date because they were supposed to do a video conference and I never got the link.
Okay, well, that's too bad. In any event, your lawsuit today seeks from the defendant $10,000. And because you say he took a lot of other stuff from you, and DMV fees, and return value of property, and emotional distress, and all that other stuff. Do you know how much meeting you on that bus has cost him so far? Do you have any idea how much meeting you has cost him? So far, $24,000. $10,000 for a lawyer, $14,000 for a car. You got the car, you declared bankruptcy, and therefore they're going to take back the car, which you're still driving. They're not taking it back till September so that you can have a nice summer with the car. Ms. Shaw, from this court, you are getting nothing. Zippity-doo-dah, nothing. He's going to be out $14,000
But the reason
because of you. So your case is dismissed. We are done here.
Court adjourned.
Well, Judge Judy is an excellent judge, so I grew up actually watching her, which is why I knew to keep my mouth shut when she asked me the first time.
He chased me down the highway to try and get the vehicle back.
The girl is delusional. Clearly, she's a scam artist.
Before I was able to pay the $1,000, he had already robbed me.
She outsmarted me. She's a liar, manipulator.
So I went to Walmart and he robbed me while I was at Walmart.
That's all I can really say about her. Nothing really good to say about her.
I'm done with dating. I'm good with my kids.
You run into this chick, man, run fast. She's skilled.
He was really out of his league.
How so?
Well, first of all, she was probably about 10 years older than he was, and clearly she knows how to work the system. And he's a kid who clearly had never been in trouble before. And clearly, getting him to co-sign or even primarily sign for this car loan, she had in her mind all the time. She just needed a target. And I guess the lesson from this case is never co-sign a loan for anyone. This poor guy didn't even know that he was going to be responsible. One day, 6 months from now, he's going to get his paycheck from UPS, and it's going to be shy $100. And that's going to go to pay off that car. And the short amount of pleasure that he had from this woman, if at all, he's going to live with until he's 50.
Case number 1008, Demers versus LaCoy. Please step forward.
Gary Demers is suing his former friend, Laura LaCroix, for losses resulting from a fraudulent check scam.
Mr. Demers, what kind of work do you do?
Right now, I'm in between jobs because I'm having some health issues taken care of.
What was the last full-time job that you had?
I was a manager of a warehouse that supplied all the postal offices from Canada to New Jersey.
And when did that job terminate?
January 29th.
Of this year?
Yes.
And how have you been supporting yourself since January?
I did a lot of smart money saving during the COVID, and I had a lot of hours. And I also got unemployment is kind of ridiculous right now.
I have to tell you that that's an honest answer.
Yes.
Yes. So just for my own curiosity, when you say unemployment is kind of ridiculous right now, those are your words. Tell me how ridiculous.
As for when I'm bringing home a week?
Yeah.
$983.
So you bring home almost $1,000 a week.
Right.
For not working.
Exactly.
And tell me how much you were making when you worked.
About $983, almost $1,000 a week.
Is that right?
Yes. During COVID, a lot of overtime. Nobody wanted to work. I had 18 days off the entire year, counting Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. I worked all through the year.
Did you understand this letter?
Not really, no.
So you got a check from these unknown people, and it looked legitimate to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I really have to tell you that my 8-year-old granddaughter could tell that this was a fake letter.
Gary Demers says he was scammed by his friend Laura LaCroix for depositing a fraudulent check.
This is what this case is about. The defendant was a friend of yours.
Acquaintance, yes.
How long have you known her?
30 years, about.
Tell me at what point she asked you to cash a check for her.
April 11th, she approached me with a large check.
Okay. She approached you by phone. She came to your house. Where did it happen?
She texted me.
Texted you?
Yes.
Do you have that text?
No.
Is it on your phone?
It could be.
Would you take a look? I usually have to hold it far away from me.
Yeah, that's towards the end. Right now I gotta...
Really?
I have a contact lens in.
Oh. I know you didn't mean that the way it sounded.
I guess it wasn't a text. On the text, it picks up where I told her that I went to get the check for her.
Okay. Can I see it, please?
I went to Park Square, was out of money.
Okay. I was coming from Harmony, brother's house, $12.50 to the landlord, correct? Is that your rent? Is that the amount of your rent?
$12.50, yes.
$12.50 to landlord, correct. $1,000 to you, $600 to me. Okay. So, based upon what I'm seeing, Miss LaCroix, you had a check
Yes.
And you allegedly got that check, you thought, from somebody that you had done some work for online or canvassing on your phone or something. Somebody sent you a check for how much?
$28.50.
And you had no bank account, and I gather, at least according to the plaintiff, you were somewhat behind on your rent. And you asked Mr. Demers to cash the check for you. Based upon the texts that he has, this was your arrangement. He was going to take that check for $28.50. He was going to pay your rent of $1,250. Then he was going to keep $1,000 himself and give you $600 in cash. So actually, from the $28.50, you got $18.50 and he got $1,000. That was the arrangement. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. The check looked legitimate to you?
Yes.
Went ahead, you cashed the check at your bank. A couple of days later, you find out that the check is all a scam.
It was a scam, yes.
And since you have no evidence in front of you, Ms. LaCroix, I assume you don't have the letter that came along with the check.
I have the letter, Your Honor, that came with the check.
Oh,
I made sure I obtained it from her to make sure it didn't get lost.
Okay, I'd like to see it. Very good. Did you understand this letter when you got it?
Not really, no.
You didn't understand this letter. So you got a check from these unknown people, and it looked legitimate to you.
Yeah.
He cashed it for you. I mean, I really have to tell you that my 8-year-old granddaughter could tell that this was a fake letter. He's out, so far, $2,800. You benefited from this scam because your landlord got paid a month's rent, correct?
As far as I'm concerned?
Yes.
He
Your
didn't pay my
landlord
rent.
got paid. That was the deal. Your landlord got paid a month's rent.
We both got the same landlord.
I don't care. That was your deal with him. Did you pay the landlord out?
Yes, I have the Venmo here.
I'd like to see it. Sarah, take a look up these people. Okay. When you cashed the check, you paid the landlord. Did you also give her $600 in cash?
Yes, I did. I have that document.
Just a second. You, in effect, gave her $1,850.
Correct.
And you kept $1,000 for yourself.
Right, because she had owed me money from the past.
I don't care.
That was the agreement.
I don't care. But you
Yes, I
took
kept
$1,000.
Yes, I did.
You took $1,000 and spent it.
No, it's probably still in the bank, but yes, I have it.
Okay, so really the benefit that she got from this check was $1,850.
Correct.
And you got $1,000.
Yes.
Okay, so what you're asking for is $1,850.
Right, because I don't know if it's right to, even though they took the $1,000 out that I took, it was given to me. I don't know if that's counted as lost money now. What you would count it as.
Yeah, but you spent the $1,000.
Yeah, I had it in my hand for 2 days.
Did the bank take back the entire $2,800?
Yes.
I'd like to see
That
it.
is right here. I put it in my savings. It came out of my checking.
The Better Business Bureau has warned about this scam involving wrapping your vehicle in advertising. It's a scam.
Thank you. Well, your lawsuit is requesting $1,870. And what do they charge you? They
Yes, the $20 on there yellowed out also for you.
for a bad check?
Yes.
Okay. That's what your lawsuit's requesting. You're absolutely entitled to a judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,870. Thank you.
Thank you.
Court's adjourned.
I thought it was more than fair
As far as I'm concerned, I got paid $600 and nothing else.
because this is a legitimate bank check from Suncoast.
And as far as I'm concerned, I seen the check. I showed Gary. Gary showed the bank. But we all thought it was real. I didn't bother finishing reading it.
Well, I wasn't happy.
Go to Gary, because they probably cashed him again.
I will deposit it, and we'll wait for it to clear.
So what advice could you give an ordinary person for being able to tell if something they get in the mail is a scam?
You know, life usually teaches you if something is too good to be true, it's usually not true.
Yeah.
And I'm not so sure that the plaintiff in that case didn't have some kind of clue that this check was not a good one. I'm not certain. But he was otherwise very truthful with me. So that's his flip side. I think that the lesson that's taken from that case is if it's too good to be true, it's usually not true.
Are you a victim of a scam? Larry Riggs for government stimulus payments and tax credits.
All right, court come to order.
Be seated, everyone.
Good morning, Judge. We have case number 1026, Sherman versus Riggs.
Thank you. Ms. Sherman, you have custody of your granddaughter.
That is correct.
How old is she now?
She's 8 months.
How long has she been with you?
She's been with me since the day she was born.
Where is her mother?
Right there.
That would be you. Was she living with you when the baby was born?
She did. When she was released from the hospital, she came to stay with me for about a month. Then she tried to go stay on her own in her apartment. Some domestic violence broke out.
You mean with the father of her child?
Correct.
And that would be the father of the child?
Yes.
How old is your daughter?
25.
Is this her first child?
It is.
How's the baby?
She's amazing.
When the baby was born, did the state put a social hold on her being released to her mother?
Not initially. In December, when there was a domestic violence incident, they did. And that's when the baby was put into my custody.
Was the baby living with you and your daughter and the boyfriend? Or were they living on their own when this domestic violence took place in December?
My daughter was living in an apartment, but she has some limitations. So when she had the baby, I was there to support her. They came to stay with me. I supported both of them. She wanted to try to live independently. Although I had some reservations, she hadn't given me any reason to doubt that. So I don't want to say allowed, but I allowed them to go without hesitation. But the baby would still come stay with me about 3 days a week and then go back with her mom. But in that 3-week span, a domestic violence incident broke out.
Between the two of them?
Absolutely.
And the police were called?
Absolutely. And Children's
that's
Services.
when the child was removed?
That's when she was officially removed, correct.
And when she was officially removed, she was placed with you?
That is correct.
Okay, now I got it. And she's been with you ever since?
That is correct. But I would like to interject that I filed for custody of my granddaughter 10 days after she was born. That would be when she was released from the hospital, because my daughter does have limitations and the father has limitations as well.
Was that granted?
That was granted.
Is that order still in existence?
Yes, it is.
Do you have a copy of that order?
I do.
I'd like to take a look at it. Try to behave yourself.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Good. I'm not seeing, Ms. Sherman, your name in here.
It's actually Dr. Sherman, and
Dr. Sherman, I'm not seeing your name here.
I do have the file I downloaded on my laptop.
I need to see them.
Okay.
You have the laptop with you?
I do.
Kevin? Okay. For the record, Dr. Sherman has custody of this child pursuant to a court order. The court order provides that any child funds, support that's received for this child go directly to her. That's what the case is about. And what your claim is that Mr. Riggs, who is the child's father, who was actually present at this hearing, according to the document itself, he received stimulus money for this child, which should have gone to you. That's your claim. I don't know what Mr. Riggs has to say about that, but whatever he has to say about that, he better say it quickly, so let's go directly to you. Now I've got the background of the case. Dr. Sherman takes care of this baby. Stop shaking your head. Don't shake your head. You don't take care of the baby. How did you manage to receive stimulus money for this child?
Your Honor.
No, just, that's a question.
I'm answering only your
Good.
question, ma'am. Your Honor, I had someone else apply for taxes for me. I told them to look into it for me, and they applied.
Who did you tell to look into it for you?
A friend. I only know him on nickname basis.
What's his nickname basis?
Tony or something. I'm sorry.
So you asked a friend of yours to look into the fact that the government was handing out free money. Did you get a stimulus check for yourself?
It came with the money.
Just a second.
Yes,
My
ma'am.
question is, did you get stimulus money for yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
How much?
$1,400.
$1,400.
Yeah, twice. One for her and one for me. They came together. Nothing more, nothing less.
Just a second. Did you get $2,800 for yourself? Did you get 2 checks
No,
for 14?
one
Just
check.
one check
Yes,
for
ma'am.
$1,400.
No, one check for 28, and it went straight to my card.
Mr. Riggs, how much money in total in stimulus did you receive from the federal government? In total?
In total,
Both times that they sent out checks.
one time was only me, and the other time
Just a
was
second.
me and her.
One
the first
time
one was
only-
14 by myself, just my name.
Okay.
And that's before the baby was even born. And I used all that money.
Just a second. $1,400 you got for yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And are you employed?
At the time, I had just lost my job.
So the answer is no. Are you working now?
Self-employed. I do dog grooming and dog walking. Right now, I get paid $10 an
So
hour.
not employed, you do odd jobs. So you
Yes,
got a
ma'am.
second stimulus check. And when you do these odd jobs, you paid in cash.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the second stimulus check, after you asked your friend Tony to look into whether or not you were entitled to money for your daughter, who does not live with you,
But I
found out
take
she
care of
did.
her. I take care of her. I buy her clothes. I buy her.
I don't care.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not your money. Period. It's not your money.
All her expenses.
it's
I pay
not-
for her because she's mine. I take care of her.
How much money do you give to Dr. Sherman every week to take care? No, look at me.
Yes,
This comes up to a number.
I have it right here.
How much money every week do you give to Dr. Sherman to take care of your daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
How much money?
We
That's a number.
We had an
No,
agreement.
no. I don't want to hear we have an agreement. I don't want to hear anything else.
She
I
flaked.
want a number.
I gave her nothing because she played.
Nothing. That would be you give her 0 every week. How much money
Put
do
me
you
on
give?
child support. They told me not to give it to her.
What?
She put me on child support. They told me to pay them, not her. That's the reason why I hadn't given her nothing.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am. Because I took care of everything.
I want to know how much money you give anybody, including a
gave my
government.
daughter.
Just pay attention. How much money do you give to anyone or any institution, including a governmental institution? How much do you give to any person? Don't give to her. To any government institution for your daughter?
Nothing. They want me to pay them
Don't tell me what they want. I want to hear a figure or a nothing.
$90.
$90
Yes, a month.
Shh, just a second. So you give
Plus
so the two of you were irresponsible enough to make a child that you couldn't take care of and foist her upon Dr. Sherman. If Dr. Sherman didn't take her, if they took her away from you, they would have put her in a strange foster home.
And later today,
Mr. Basfani, did she have conversation with you?
No.
Just a second.
Yes.
You answered my question too fast, which means I don't believe you.
Sorry,
Because you didn't even let me ask the question.
Dr. Ebony Sherman claims her granddaughter's father, Larry Riggs, wrongfully collected stimulus payments from the government.
You give $90 per month to what agency?
Child support.
And you give them this $90 from what source of funds?
I do odd jobs. I do what I can to take care of my family. I wave signs. I walk dogs.
You're not entitled to the stimulus money. You're not entitled to any stimulus money for this child.
My stimulus money?
No.
I used
Her
my
stimulus.
whole check
Just
that
a
the
second.
government gave me to spend on everything she needed.
I
Her
don't
diaper,
care.
everything. I was supposed to go to school so I can get more money, and I didn't because I wanted to take care of what's mine, my kids, for me to, and then to, for
You're
them to
not
turn
taking
around.
care of your kid.
If I pay
you
for
give,
it, well, I'm not. All the stimulus money I got, received that $1,400, went to my daughter.
There will be
everything she needed.
Listen to me.
Was taken
There's
care
an
of.
order, and
Even to
there's an order of the court that says any money goes to Dr. Sherman.
I didn't go to
I
court for
am
that.
going to prepare an order
didn't
that
do
she is going to send to the IRS, who's sending out all these stimulus checks.
I told her I would pay for the schooling, and she, in turn, put me on child support. She said, yes, okay, we could do that. And when I went to go pay her, next thing you know, I had child support calling me, talking about, don't give her no money, you pay us.
Listen, let me explain something to you, Mr. Riggs. You and your girlfriend are not the victims here. Dr. Sherman.
Every time I'm paying. I don't even have a
I
job.
want you to pay attention.
She brags about having 3 jobs.
I want you to pay attention to me. You think you're a victim here.
I'm giving my best, and I got nothing
speak.
to show for it.
Don't speak. God gave you one mouth and 2 ears for a reason. The two of you, based upon what a court found, are incapable of taking. Don't speak. Don't raise your hand. Do nothing. A court, and I'm not going behind that, found that the two of you, because the police had to be called to your home because there was a domestic dispute and maybe other things as well, found that the two of you were not capable of taking care of an infant. The infant would be unsafe in your care. You were present during, according to the document that I read, you were present. Don't speak. Don't speak. Now, that would mean to me that the two of you were not terribly responsible in creating a child that you couldn't physically take care of. Dr. Sherman has already been through the time when she wanted to take care of babies. I remember, because I have good long-term memory, when I was Dr. Sherman's age. And I want to tell you, the last thing I wanted was full-time responsibility of an 8-month-old. Nothing. I was dancing on my own. I napped when I wanted to. I went to dinner when I wanted to. I saw friends when I wanted to. I wasn't encumbered at her age by an infant. I liked my grandchildren. I went and saw them. I patted them on the head. I gave them some gummy bears, sometimes $1 or $2, and then I said to their parents, they're all yours. Just a second. They're all yours. So the two of you were irresponsible enough to make a child that you couldn't take care of. The state says you couldn't take care of her, and foist her upon Dr. Sherman. Now, she could have just as easily, if Dr. Sherman didn't take her, if they took her away from you, they would have put her in a strange foster home. You are not entitled to that child's stimulus check. How much money in total? This requires a number, Mr. Riggs.
$1,400, ma'am.
$1,400, judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much.
But wait, Judge Heinlein, what I am suing for is the fact that because he filed before me, there were certain monies from the IRS that I was owed on my taxes that I am not entitled to.
That I can't help you with. You're entitled to the stimulus money check.
But he has more. But there was more than one stimulus, and there's also.
He said he only received one. Can you prove to me that he received more than one?
I don't know what, but I was also entitled to the child tax credit. I work. He doesn't.
Let me explain something to you. He can't. Put your paper down.
It's the proof. I only got the 14, the 20. That's it.
She can't prove you got any more.
Okay, I have the proof.
I would suggest that you speak to your accountant and take care of all of this business in the future. Right now, what you're getting from him is $1,400 that he had no right to keep. Do you understand?
I do.
Great. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're done.
Court adjourned.
I think she saw right through him.
Every time she asked me for anything, I gave her the money. I gave it to her.
Everything that he said was a lie. He hasn't been taking care of this baby at all.
That baby was lucky to have a grandmother that was responsible enough to take her in her time of need to make sure she wasn't neglected.
That's true. Over 40 years, I've seen that people who are irresponsible in having children that they're not able to physically or financially or emotionally take care of, those children usually wind up in a system that is not as welcoming as Dr. Sherman. She was lucky. You know, irresponsible people should not have kids until they're responsible.
Case number 1019, Scott versus Keller. Please step forward.
Mary Scott is suing her former employee, Sherry Keller, for an unpaid car loan.
Miss Scott, you have a cleaning business.
Well, we recently sold it, but we did.
Okay, who's the we?
My husband and I.
How long did you have the business?
About 20 years.
Name of the business?
It was Maryland Cleaning Services.
Did you have full-time employees, part-time employees?
Both.
What was the defendant?
She was a part-time independent contractor.
Miss Scott, there is no such thing as a part-time independent contractor. That's just sort of a tax thing.
Okay.
Okay? And if you had a business for 20 years, you know that, which means you didn't pay medical insurance for her.
Correct.
Right? Did you pay her in check or cash?
Cash.
So you paid her in cash. Did she work for you 5 days a week?
It varied.
Was it mostly 5 days a week?
Yes, I'd say yes.
Was it mostly 5 days a week?
When I was pregnant, yes.
What does that mean when you were pregnant?
After I was pregnant, my hours, they went to like 3 days a week.
Okay, how long did you work at 5 days a week?
Probably about almost a year.
Okay, and how much were you paid daily?
It was per job.
Explain that to me, per job.
It depended on like the houses that we had to clean. So they were like per hour. So like you would clean like a house for like 1 or 2 hours and it was like $90 an hour, but we didn't get that full 90. So
You mean the people who cleaned?
yes, they would pay
that's how
the
they made their
company.
money.
They would pay the company and then they would pay me the percentage.
Maryland Cleaning charged the homeowner $90 an hour.
Correct.
And how many women or men went to a house? Were there a team?
1 to 2.
Was it most of the time with another person?
Yes.
Okay. And how much of the $90 an hour did your team get, you or your team?
I was a supervisor, so I would get 21%, and then the lady I was working with, she would get, I believe it was 14 or 19.
And when you were working for Miss Scott, did you pay taxes for that year?
Nope.
Did you 1099 your employees?
Yes, we did, Your Honor.
No, they did not.
I want you to understand that I don't think that this was some kind of mitzvah that you were doing for the defendant. Mitzvah, parenthesis, good deed. Because if you wanted to do a mitzvah for her, you would have done it while she was pregnant, right?
Sure.
Cleaning business owner Mary Scott says her former employee, Sherry Keller, owes payments on a car loan.
Okay, now we're going to move on because I just have the lay of the land and I understand your business. How far into your employment did Miss Scott get you a car?
Okay, I worked for them for about a year, and I got pregnant, and I left for like 2 months to have the baby. Before I was even back is when they offered to buy me a car.
So you'd worked there for a year?
Uh-huh.
And so evidently you were excited and happy with her performance if you were taking her back after her maternity leave. Yeah. That's clear. You don't even have to answer that question. I want you to tell me your version of how it came about that you either gave her money or purchased a car that's in her name.
Yes. After she came back from maternity leave, she was having trouble getting to work. And we also needed, employees to be able to drive to jobs and such.
Just a second.
Okay.
You went over that very fast. She didn't have a car before she was pregnant.
Correct.
And she worked for you for a period of time after she became pregnant.
Correct.
And during that time, she didn't have a car.
Correct.
And you didn't offer to get her a car. You offered to get her a car after she came back from maternity leave because you not only needed her to get to where she had to go, you needed other employees to get to where they had to go.
She asked us to
Just
get
a
her a
sec.
car.
Great.
Excuse me.
No, just a minute. You have to understand, Miss Scott, that, if they wanted somebody really great looking and young with no life experiences, they wouldn't have hired me.
They might have.
No, no. So I understand your business. I understand now how it works. I understand your accounting practices. And I understand the common sense of, I've got a lot of workers that I'm paying 14% of $90 to an hour, and I have to get them to and from their jobs. So it inures to my benefit for an employee who I know has a history with us of a year and was a good employee. This could be beneficial to everybody. So I want you to understand that I don't think that this was some kind of mitzvah that you were doing for the defendant, mitzvah, parenthesis, good deed, that you were doing for her, because if you wanted to do a mitzvah for her, you would have done it while she was pregnant, right?
Sure.
Of course. So explain to me, the car is in her name.
Correct.
It's not.
In whose name is it?
It's in my boyfriend's name.
It's in your boyfriend's name?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Was it purchased in your boyfriend's name?
No, they wrote a check directly to the person who the car was from.
And why did you put it in your boyfriend's?
Because I couldn't personally put it in my name.
Well, just a second. We're going to get into that.
I know.
I know. Okay. And you couldn't put this car in your name because? tags?
Because I've had a previous car. The car broke down and I never took the tags back, so I couldn't put another car in my name. They never asked me that. So the only way I could actually get it was to put it in his name.
Just for giggles. Did you tell them that you were putting it in your boyfriend's name?
No, they never asked any questions. They just...
Okay, so they just paid the money to the seller of the car.
And we had to pay for the tags and the title and everything.
Okay, and the car is in boyfriend's name.
Mm-hmm.
And they were taking money out of your check.
Correct.
Every week or so.
Correct.
Was it every week?
Every week.
Every week. $50 according
Correct.
to what I read here. And then you quit.
There's more to that, but yes.
Yeah,
It's
you're going to
way
tell
more.
me about this other person that you had to drive,
Mm-hmm.
and that she was a problem, and she drank a little in the morning.
It was more than a little.
Just a sec. Did you ever have a discussion with Miss Scott about that?
I had a discussion with Comlish.
My husband.
Is your last name Scott?
No.
It was funny.
Mr. Basfani, did she have conversation with you?
No.
Just a second.
Yes.
You answered my question too fast, which means I don't believe you.
Sorry.
Because you didn't even let me ask the question.
I thought it was finished.
How could it be finished? You must have had conversations with her over the years of her
Yes.
employment, did you not?
Yes, I did.
Right. I said, did you ever have a conversation with her? And you said no.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
You know, this can be easy or it could be hard, because I have a feeling that everybody here didn't do everything according to all the rules. Did Miss Keller ever discuss with you the behavior of one of your employees that you asked her to pick up?
No, she did not. I was not in the office. Every day we had a manager, and she would be discussing whatever she wanted to discuss with the manager.
The manager?
Yes. There's an on-site manager managing the business.
Did you ever have a conversation with him directly?
Yes, I have a text message.
Oh, may I see it?
Yes.
Oh, better. Better. Okay, so Miss Keller.
Yes.
There's one line in this whole text message that refers to her drinking.
I've talked...
Everything else refers to the fact that this other person, who I gather was your supervisor.
No, I was the supervisor driving the drunk lady.
Got it. There's a line here about this other woman being drunk and, you know, and if we got pulled over, it would be terrible. But it appears from this text, my overall reading of this text, is you got fed up with this woman who was treating you disrespectfully.
Yes, but I've had 2 phone conversations prior to that in detail talking to him about the woman who was drunk.
Okay, but the tenor of your text messages that your direct supervisor was disrespectful to you, and you would work very hard. You worked very hard during your pregnancy, and you probably came back way too early. And you say in this text, you've been very nice to me. I'm sorry I have to quit, but I just can't work for someone who's been disrespectful to me and continues to be disrespectful to me. Got it. You also acknowledge here that I'm going to pay you for the car.
I was going to. I did say also once I found a place to live and I got the money.
Now, Miss Keller,
I have 2
you
kids.
tried telling that to Jamie Dimon over at Chase. I'm going to pay you back. Well, but first I have to find a place to live. Then I have to see if I have any extra money. If I have any extra money, I will repay my car loan.
I had every intention. It just didn't work out.
It just didn't work out.
I had
Well,
every
that's very
intention of
nice. That
doing
could have
it.
saved me a whole lot of time. If you said, I owe you the money, I'll pay you over time. Okay. So left on the money is $25.38. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
$25.38 is exactly what you owe. You haven't made any payments since?
No.
$25.38, judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much.
Thank
We're
you,
done.
Your Honor.
Thank you.
Court adjourned.
I explained to him that she was getting drunk and I just couldn't do it anymore.
We never heard from her.
Time to go separate ways.
You know what I found interesting about that case? The defendant, who owed the money, was totally comfortable about telling the truth about the car being in her boyfriend's name, totally comfortable. And the plaintiffs, because they were sort of skimming over the rules, you know, she was an independent contractor. Not really. She was really an employee. And I think if I took anything away from that rather simplistic case was something that I've always known, if you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory.
Want justice? Go to